The roommate who was never on the lease. Location, Atlanta, Georgia. Part 1, Something Off About Her. When I moved to Atlanta for grad school, I found a listing for a cheap room in a 3-bedroom house just outside the city. The rent was low, and the girl I'd be living with, Danielle, seemed normal enough during our FaceTime interview. She said she was quiet, worked remotely, and mostly kept to herself. That sounded perfect. For the first couple of months, things were fine. Danielle was polite, soft-spoken, always wore oversized sweaters, and kept to her room most of the time. She cooked weird meals, boiled eggs with cinnamon, hot milk with black pepper, but whatever, I chalked it up to personal taste. Then little things started happening. I'd hear movement in her room when she was supposedly out. Lights flickering. A faint ticking sound at night. She never had visitors, never got packages, and didn't seem to own a phone. When I asked if she had Instagram or Facebook, she just smiled and said, "I don't do digital." Still, rent was cheap, and school was overwhelming, so I let it slide. Until the day I accidentally opened the wrong drawer in the hallway. Inside was a wallet, an old student ID, and a hospital bracelet. But what caught me off guard was the name. It said Danielle Hart, same as my roommate. The face, though, wasn't hers. It was another woman. And that woman had gone missing in 2018. Part 2, They Always Find Me. I spent the entire night Googling. The Danielle Hart from the ID had been a nursing student at Georgia State. She disappeared from campus one night in April 2018 after leaving the library. Never found. Cold case. I didn't sleep. The next morning, when she came into the kitchen, I confronted her. I held up the ID and said, "Who is this?" Danielle looked at it, smiled softly, and said something I'll never forget. "They always find me eventually." That's it. No panic. No denial. Just those 6 words. Then she calmly made tea, walked back to her room, and locked the door. I stood there frozen, clutching the ID, wondering what the hell she meant. I tried knocking, calling her name, even texting, nothing. Around midnight, I noticed her bedroom light was off. By morning, her room was empty. Like, stripped. Mattress gone. No clothes. No bags. No toothbrush. Not even dust. She had vanished without a trace. Part 3, What Was Under the Floor? I called the police, shaking as I explained everything. The ID. The missing woman. The bizarre conversation. They showed up the next day with a search warrant. One of the officers noticed something strange about her bedroom closet floor. It didn't match the rest of the hardwood. After pulling up a few boards, they found a small crawlspace beneath. Inside were 6 old cell phones. 3 wigs. A pair of muddy boots. And what they believe were human bones wrapped in tarp. The bones are still being tested. No one knows who they belong to. There was no record of Danielle Hart ever living at our address. No lease. No rental application. Nothing. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint footsteps above my ceiling, even though there's no attic. And every time I walk past that room, I swear I can smell cinnamon and boiled eggs. My daughter's imaginary friend knows too much about me. Location, Sacramento, California. Part 1, Mr. Hollow. It started when my daughter, Lily, turned 5. She began talking about her imaginary friend, which didn't seem like a big deal at first. Kids do that. I even found it kind of charming. She called him Mr. Hollow. She said he had no eyes, but he still sees everything. Creepy, sure, but I figured it was just her imagination getting a little wild. My wife passed away 2 years ago, and Lily's been quieter ever since. She doesn't really talk to other kids much. If Mr. Hollow helped her feel less alone, I was willing to let it slide. But then she started drawing things. And that's when I started to feel uneasy. One picture showed me standing in our backyard at night with a shovel. Another had me digging something. In the third, there was a hole, and something small was inside it, wrapped in a blanket. The drawing was crude, but unmistakable. Something was being buried. I laughed it off when I saw it. Asked her, "What's this, sweetheart?" She looked up from her cereal and said, "That's what Mr. Hollow showed me. He said that's what Daddy did." I didn't know what to say. There's nothing buried in our backyard. I know that. I've lived in this house for 5 years. I would know. But there's something else. Something I hadn't thought about in years. When I was a kid, I used to sleepwalk. And now, I'm not so sure I ever stopped. Part 2, Voices in the Dark. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring out the window at the backyard. The same patch of earth Lily had drawn. It looked normal. The grass was a little overgrown, the garden hose coiled near the fence, and the swing set creaked a little in the breeze. But I couldn't stop looking at that one spot beneath the old oak tree. I couldn't sleep. At around 2 a.m., I heard something. A soft, high-pitched voice through the baby monitor we still used in Lily's room. I grabbed the receiver. She was whispering. "Okay, Mr. Hollow. I'll tell him. But he's scared. I don't want Daddy to cry." I jumped up, rushed into her room. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the corner. I looked, but saw nothing. Just stuffed animals and shadows. "Lily," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Who are you talking to?" She blinked slowly. "You." "No, before that." She hugged her knees. "Mr. Hollow says you forgot what you did." My stomach turned. I started digging through old boxes in the garage the next morning. Yearbooks, journals, storage bins from my childhood. I found a hospital file, something my parents had kept but never talked about. There was a mention of an incident when I was 12. A neighbor's baby had gone missing. I had been questioned, but never charged. They chalked it up to a kidnapping. No trace of the baby was ever found. I had no memory of it. Until now. Part 3, The Hole. That same night, I had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was standing in the backyard, holding a shovel. The moon was full. My hands were covered in dirt. And in front of me was a small bundle, wrapped in a faded blue blanket with cartoon ducks on it. I remember that blanket. I had one just like it when I was a kid. I woke up gasping for air. My sheets were damp with sweat. My hands were dirty. Dirt under my nails. I ran to the backyard before the sun even rose. I started digging. The ground was soft. Too soft. Like it had been disturbed recently. About 2 feet down, I hit something. It was a rotted wooden box. Old. Cracked. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a bundle of cloth. Small bones. Something that looked like a pacifier, half decayed. My vision blurred. I stumbled back, shaking. It wasn't a dream. I had buried something. Something real. And somehow, my daughter's imaginary friend knew. I went inside. Lily was awake, sitting on the couch, her legs swinging. She looked at me like she had been waiting. "He said you'd remember," she whispered. "Now he can leave." "Who?" I asked. She pointed to the hallway mirror. For a split second, I saw it, a tall, eyeless shape, standing behind me in the reflection. Then it was gone. That night, Lily slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. But I didn't. Because I finally remembered what I did. And I knew Mr. Hollow would never really leave. Not while I was still here. My husband's voice came from the baby monitor, but he wasn't home. Location, Houston, Texas. Part 1, The Voice. It started on a Thursday evening. I remember because it was meatloaf night and I had just taken it out of the oven when I heard something odd coming from the baby monitor. My husband's voice. Soft. Familiar. Singing the same lullaby he always used when putting our daughter down for naps. Except he wasn't home. Jake works late shifts at the hospital on Thursdays. He left at 1 p.m. and wouldn't be back until after midnight. I even texted him right then. "Me, you home?" "Jake, no? Still on shift." "Why?" That's when the unease hit me like a punch. I walked slowly to the monitor on the kitchen counter and turned the volume up. His voice was still there, gently humming. I grabbed the handheld unit and switched it to video mode. The feed crackled for a second, then flickered into view. There was someone in the room. Leaning over the crib. Too tall to be Jake. My heart raced as I dropped the monitor and bolted upstairs. I don't remember taking the stairs. I just remember bursting into the nursery. Empty. Completely empty. Our baby girl, Emma, was sleeping peacefully. Alone. No signs of anyone else ever being there. The window was shut. The door had been locked. Nothing was out of place. Confused and shaking, I looked down at the monitor I was still clutching. The screen had gone black, but a message flashed at the top. Last transmission received, 8 minutes into future. Part 2, Glitches. I told myself it had to be some kind of glitch. A weird tech bug. Baby monitors are just radios, right? Maybe it picked up interference or a neighboring house or something. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house set me on edge. I kept glancing at the monitor, waiting for it to make a noise. Every time it was silent, I got more anxious. Jake got home a little after midnight and found me on the couch, watching the nursery camera on my phone. When I told him what happened, he laughed at first. A delay maybe? Like a loop? You know these things can lag. But I wasn't convinced. I asked him to sing the lullaby right then, into the monitor. When he did, the pitch was off. Not dramatically, but just enough. The voice I heard earlier was too perfect. It wasn't a recording. It was something mimicking him, exactly. The next morning, I reviewed the camera logs. Nothing unusual, until I rewound to the timestamp when I saw the figure. The entire clip was there, a tall man-shaped silhouette leaning into the crib, humming. But as I watched, I noticed something even more terrifying. His mouth never moved. He was singing. But his lips weren't. Part 3, the future room. I called the baby monitor's tech support line. They said nothing in the system should be capable of future transmission. That feature didn't exist. But they did admit one strange thing. The device had briefly connected to an unlisted signal on our home network. Not external, but something inside our house. A phantom device with no label. No MAC address. Just a blank entry logged for exactly 8 minutes. After that call, I unplugged the monitor and tried to forget. But Emma kept waking up crying at exactly 3:08 a.m. every single night. Same time. Every night. No matter what we did. One night, I decided to sit in the nursery and wait. The clock struck 3:07. I felt it. A change in the air. Like static. Like something shifting just beneath reality. At 3:08, Emma's eyes fluttered open and she whispered, "Daddy?" But it wasn't Jake she was looking at. She was looking past me. Behind me. I turned, but there was nothing. No one. The monitor flickered back to life. And there it was. A live video feed of the nursery, except it wasn't now. It was morning light. The crib was empty. Toys were scattered. The mobile was broken. A date flashed in the corner, October 19, 2025. 3 months in the future. And then the screen went black again. The neighbor who copies me. Location, Brooklyn, New York. Part 1, The Mirror Girl. I moved into this apartment in Brooklyn 2 months ago. The rent was decent, the building had charm, and the neighborhood felt alive. My unit faced the building across the alley, and for the first week, I barely looked out my window. Then I noticed her. My neighbor. Same floor. Directly across from me. At first, it was small stuff. When I opened my blinds in the morning, she opened hers too. If I stepped onto my fire escape with coffee, so did she. It became a little joke in my head. I even texted a friend saying, "Guess I've got a twin next door." But then I realized it wasn't funny. Because she didn't just copy my routine. She copied me. Same clothes. If I wore my gray hoodie and leggings, she'd be wearing the exact same thing, down to the messy bun and socks. I thought maybe I was overthinking it, maybe it was a coincidence. But when I tested it by putting on a neon green scarf and stepping onto the fire escape, she showed up 30 seconds later. Same scarf. Same stance. Same crooked smile. I waved. She waved too, but with the opposite hand. Like a mirror. Part 2, Don't look too long. I tried to shake it off. Maybe she was weird. Maybe it was a prank. But it kept getting worse. When I did yoga in my living room, she'd move in perfect sync from her side. When I got a package and bent to pick it up, she mimicked the exact movement, like she was waiting for it. One night, I stayed up late and flicked my lights on and off, randomly. Seconds later, her apartment flashed too, in the exact same pattern. That's when I knew she was watching me. But how? I couldn't see a phone, no camera, nothing obvious. I closed my blinds. I covered my mirrors. I even avoided my windows for a few days. But every time I stepped near them, I could feel her waiting. I called the landlord. He told me that apartment was listed as vacant. He said the last tenant moved out 3 months ago. I asked if maybe someone moved in without his knowledge, but he swore the place had been locked up since winter. I hung up and stared across the alley. Her lights were off. Her blinds were drawn. Finally. That night, I slept with a little less dread. Until I checked my phone the next morning. There was a photo in my gallery. One I didn't take. It was a shot of me. But from outside my window. Part 3, She isn't across anymore. I ran to the window. Her apartment was dark. Empty. The blinds were half open, swaying slightly, like someone had just left in a hurry. I checked every door and lock in my apartment. Everything was shut tight. I should have called the cops, but what was I going to say? There's a woman who might be living in a vacant unit who looks like me and mimics my life? So I set up my phone on the windowsill with a motion trigger app. Just in case. That night, at 2:13 a.m., it went off. I opened the footage. At first, I saw nothing. Just the window across from me. Then slowly, something stepped into view. But it wasn't the woman. It was me. Same face. Same clothes. Except I was outside, staring directly into the lens with a smile I've never seen on my own face before. The me in the video slowly tilted her head, then raised her hand to wave. And I realized something. She wasn't in the apartment across from me anymore. She was here. The doorbell footage that shouldn't exist, real footage? Location, Boise, Idaho. Part 1, The clip that changed everything. I live in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of Boise, Idaho. Nothing exciting ever really happens here, just rows of modest houses, dog walkers, the occasional package thief. So when my Ring camera sent a motion alert at 3:44 a.m., I figured it was just a raccoon or a neighbor's cat. But I checked anyway, more out of habit than concern. What I saw made me stop breathing. It was me. Standing on the porch. Still. Expressionless. Staring directly into the lens. I don't remember going outside. In fact, I know I didn't. I'd gone to bed around midnight after watching a movie, and I never left the house. I checked my phone's step tracker, my indoor security sensors, even the front door logs. Nothing showed any activity. And yet, there I was on the footage, wearing the same pajamas, with the same messy hair. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I sleepwalked. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe someone was playing an elaborate prank. But the timestamp was real. The video was crystal clear. And I looked wide awake. When I tried deleting the clip, my app froze. The screen went black, then showed a buffering symbol that never finished. I closed it, reopened it, and the video was still there. I gave up, turned off notifications, and tried to shake it from my mind. Until the next night. Part 2, Nightly Uploads. I started receiving the same alert every night. Same time. 3:44 a.m. Same video, but not quite. Each night, the footage changed slightly. The lighting. The tilt of my head. One night, I blinked. Another, I smiled. I even changed the camera angle to point toward the driveway. Didn't matter. The next morning, the video was back to showing me on the porch, standing directly in front of the lens. Even creepier, my live feed never showed anyone there at 3:44 a.m. It was like these clips were pre-recorded, or coming from somewhere else. One night, I stayed up, determined to catch myself in the act. I sat by the window with a clear view of the porch, my phone in hand, Ring app open. 3:43 a.m. Nothing. 3:44 a.m. Still nothing. But the notification came anyway. Motion detected at your front door. I refreshed the app, and the new clip loaded, me, standing outside, staring straight into the camera. In real time, the porch was empty. The me in the video grinned. Not a normal smile. A knowing, sinister grin. Like it knew I was watching. Part 3, It Wants In. I reset the camera. Factory settings. Deleted the app. Switched phones. Changed my Wi-Fi password. Nothing worked. Every night, the clip uploads again. Same title. Same timestamp. But now it starts earlier. It shows the me thing walking up the driveway, slowly, like it's getting braver. Closer. Confident. It mimics my walk. My gestures. Last night, it even waved. I don't know what it is, or how it's getting these videos onto my account. There's no local file, no cloud history that tracks the upload. Even Ring support had no answer. They escalated the issue to engineering. The case number disappeared from my account the next day. Last night was the worst. The video started at 3:40 a.m. It walked up to the door like always. But this time, instead of just staring, it reached forward. Slowly. And rang the bell. I never heard it. The camera picked up the sound. My phone registered it. But in real life, nothing rang. And this time, at the very end of the footage, it looked straight into the camera and whispered one word. Let me in. Tonight's 3:44 a.m. is coming. I've boarded the door. Locked every window. But somehow, I know I'll still be standing there. Waiting to be let inside. The man under the bed that only the dog can see. Location, Kansas City, Missouri. Part 1, The Growl. It started about 2 weeks after I moved into the new place. A quiet townhouse on the edge of Kansas City. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, decent rent. I was settling in fine, just me and my golden retriever, Baxter. He's the sweetest dog, friendly, obedient, barely ever barks. That's why it freaked me out when he started growling. It happened the first time around 2:45 in the morning. I woke up to that low, throaty growl dogs do when they're on edge. Baxter was sitting at the foot of my bed, staring at the floor with his ears flat. Not the door. Not the window. The floor. Right next to the bed. I flipped on the bedside lamp. Nothing. I checked under the bed, even though it barely had space to slide a shoe underneath, let alone a person. Still, I looked. Nothing but dust and an old sock. He did it again the next night. Same time, same stare. Same growl. By the third night, I pulled out my phone and recorded him. And when that showed nothing, I ordered one of those motion-activated nanny cams online. I wasn't expecting it to catch anything. I thought maybe a mouse or a draft. Something logical. But what I saw on that footage still makes my skin crawl. Part 2, 3:07 a.m. I set up the camera on a chair in the corner of the room, facing the bed. It started recording automatically at 10 p.m. I tried to sleep, knowing Baxter would probably wake me with his growling again. And like clockwork, around 3 a.m., he sat up, alert, low growl rumbling in his chest. The next morning, I pulled the footage into my laptop and scanned through the night. Hours of nothing. Just me sleeping and Baxter occasionally shifting. Until 3:07 a.m. The motion sensor had triggered a clip. It started with Baxter lifting his head, ears up. Then his body tensed. And then, something happened I cannot explain. From the shadow beneath the bed, two pale, human hands slid out. Not quickly. Slowly. Like someone testing the air. One hand touched the floor. Then the other. The fingers were long. Dirty. The nails were cracked. They reached out just far enough to touch the edge of the rug. Then, just as slowly, they slid back under the bed. I paused. Rewound. Watched it again. There is no space under that bed. It's maybe 4 inches off the ground. I tried to shove a book under there once and it didn't fit. But those hands came from beneath it like it was hollow. Like there was another space beneath reality itself. And I was sleeping inches above it. Part 3, no one believes me. I showed the video to my brother. He laughed, said it was fake. My best friend thought I was pulling some viral prank. But I know what I saw. And Baxter, he still growls every night. Only now, he doesn't just stare. Now, he whines. He presses himself to the door, trying to get out of the room before 3 a.m. Last night, I tried something new. I placed my phone under the bed, recording, just to see if maybe the angle would capture more. This morning, I found it cracked. The screen shattered like something had slammed into it from the inside. But the file was still there. No video. Just audio. Scraping. Heavy breathing. And one whisper, so clear it chilled me to the bone. It said, "Why does the dog see me? I'm sleeping on the couch now." But even from there, I hear the growl. And every night, 3:07 a.m. comes. And Baxter starts to whine. My therapist told me I don't exist. Part 1, The Whisper. It started like any normal Tuesday. I walked into my therapist's office, same time, same chair, same ritual I'd followed for 5 months. Dr. Alan Rhodes was in his mid-50s, clean-cut, the kind of guy you'd trust with your secrets even before you meant to. We'd built a rhythm. I talked, he listened, and little by little, things got lighter. Until last week. He waited until the end of the session, after I'd just finished venting about something minor, how I'd forgotten where I parked my car again. I laughed about it, but he didn't smile. Instead, he leaned forward, real quiet, like he didn't want the walls to hear. "You're the most vivid one so far," he said. "But you're not real." I blinked. Thought it was a joke. A weird therapeutic tactic. But then he pulled a leather notebook from his drawer and set it on the table between us. My name, Jenna Carter ***, was written in block letters across the top of a page. Dozens of names were scribbled on pages before and after it, some underlined, some circled. Mine? Mine was crossed out. I laughed again, weakly. "What is this?" Dr. Rhodes smiled in this soft, pitying way, like I'd just asked why the sky was blue. "You don't have to come back," he said. "But thank you for the conversations. They've helped me a lot." I left that office dizzy, half convinced I'd been part of some twisted psychology experiment. I told myself I'd report him, maybe even sue. But I didn't. I didn't do anything. Until I passed his office again, 2 days later. And saw my name on the door. Not his. Mine. Dr. Jenna Carter, Ph.D. Part 2, Something is Off. At first, I thought it was a prank. Or some kind of delusion. But the receptionist greeted me like I belonged. "Morning, Dr. Carter," she said, handing me a stack of files. "Your first client is in room 3. I stood there frozen. "I think you've got the wrong person," I said. "I'm not." But then I glanced at the wall behind her desk. My photo. Framed. Smiling. Wearing clothes I didn't remember owning. Below the photo, a plaque. Dr. Jenna Carter, licensed clinical psychologist. My heart started hammering in my chest. I left the building without another word and sat in my car for a long time, staring at my hands like they didn't belong to me. Back at my apartment, everything looked the same, mostly. But there were odd changes. The photos on my fridge now included patients I'd never seen before. Books I didn't remember buying were lined neatly on my shelf, clinical manuals, therapy case studies, not the novels I actually read. And my laptop? It had patient notes. Dozens of them. Names. Dates. Symptoms. Progress reports. Including one that stopped me cold. Subject, Alan Rhodes. Notes under it said things like, "Still refuses to accept he is no longer in control. Recurring hallucinations of past patients. Refers to himself as a therapist, delusional narrative building. Continues to externalize guilt by imagining invented characters. Patient believes Jenna Carter is one of his own creations." Part 3, The Lie. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I kept walking in circles, rereading those notes, checking every inch of my apartment for hidden cameras, microphones, anything that would tell me this was some kind of elaborate setup. But nothing explained what I was seeing. Or why every email in my inbox was addressed to Dr. Carter. Or why my voicemail was full of messages from clients asking for appointments, thanking me for our last session. And still, deep down, I felt like an imposter. Like none of this belonged to me. Like I was wearing someone else's skin. I went back to the building the next day. The receptionist smiled again. The same name on the door. The same face on the wall. So I went into room 3. Sat down across from a young woman, mid-20s, who immediately started talking about her recurring dreams and trust issues. I didn't stop her. I didn't tell her I wasn't a therapist. I just listened. And halfway through her story, something terrifying happened. I started remembering her dream before she finished describing it. Every word felt familiar. Like déjà vu. Like I'd heard it in my own head before she said it out loud. Later, in the silence of my office, I opened the notebook that sat on the desk. It was the same one Dr. Rhodes had shown me. All the names were there. But this time, they were patients. And Alan Rhodes? His name was at the very end. Crossed out. Under it, in neat handwriting. Subject terminated. No longer active. And beneath that? Note, therapist must not remember they were once the patient. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know who started the lie. But every time I sit in that office, every time I help someone speak their truth, I feel a little less like a ghost. And a little more like whoever Jenna Carter is supposed to be. The elevator that only goes down at night. Part 1, the 13th floor. I moved to Chicago 2 years ago after accepting a marketing job downtown. The pay was decent, the view from my 10th floor apartment was even better, and the building, though old, had character, those little tile patterns in the hallway, the gold-plated elevator buttons, even a doorman named Pete who called everyone boss no matter what. The building had 12 floors. Always had. I checked before I signed the lease. Everything was fine until I started working late shifts. Nothing too crazy, just 10 or 11 p.m. That's when it began. The elevator would take a little longer than usual. The lights inside would flicker, like they were struggling to stay alive. And then, one night, instead of stopping at my floor, it kept going. Past 12. The screen blinked, 13. That was impossible. When the door slid open, I didn't know what to think. The floor looked unfinished. The tile was dirty, like it had been mopped with mud. One light above the hallway buzzed and flickered. The walls were yellowed like they had soaked in decades of cigarette smoke. And at the end of the hallway, there was a single door. Manager's office, please knock. Out of curiosity, I did. A voice, muffled but clear, whispered from the other side. It's not your turn yet. Part 2, Strange Rules. I didn't talk about it at first. I figured I was just tired. Overworked. Maybe I dreamed the whole thing. But then it happened again. And again. Only when I worked late. Only when I was alone in the elevator. Always at night. I asked Pete, the doorman, if the building had a 13th floor. He gave me a strange look. Officially? No. But this building's from the 1920s. Some of those old blueprints, they had weird layouts. Why? You hear something? No, just curious, I said. That night, I waited until 11:45 p.m. Then I pressed the elevator button. When the doors opened, I stepped inside and watched. It passed 10. Then 11. Then 12. Ding. 13. This time I stepped out. The hallway was longer now. Same flickering light, same stained walls, but the smell of smoke was thicker. I knocked again. The voice returned, closer this time. It's still not your turn. Then the door creaked open, just an inch. I saw nothing but darkness beyond it. I didn't wait. I ran back to the elevator, heart pounding. The next morning, I tried to access that floor in daylight. Pressed every combination of buttons. Nothing. The elevator stopped at 12, as it always had. Part 3, The Turn. Weeks passed. I stopped working late. I made excuses. Took work home instead. But some nights, I'd catch myself staring at the elevator doors, wondering, what would happen when it was my turn? Last Friday, the agency asked for a last-minute pitch deck. I stayed late. Way past midnight. I tried not to think about the elevator. But when I finally left, tired and wired, it was there waiting for me. I stepped inside. Hit 10. The numbers climbed, then dropped. Ding. 13. This time, the hallway was longer. A second door had appeared, labeled Deliveries. The manager's office door was still there. Slightly ajar. I turned to leave, but the elevator doors had already closed behind me. No button. No panel. Just silence. I walked to the manager's office. My heart was racing. I knocked once. The door opened. There was no room. Just black stairs going down. And that voice, closer now, right behind my ear. It's your turn. The highway exit that isn't on any map. Location, off I-80, Nevada. Part 1, the exit. I was driving across Nevada late at night, somewhere along I-80, trying to push through until Salt Lake. It was around 2:15 a.m. when I noticed my gas tank was lower than I'd realized. I had maybe 10 miles left, and the desert doesn't forgive that kind of mistake. That's when I saw it. An exit. No sign, no lights, no name, just a narrow ramp peeling off the highway like it had always been there. It didn't show up on my GPS, but I was desperate. I figured I must have missed it on the map or something. The ramp curved into darkness, and the second my tires hit the end of it, my cell service dropped to 0 bars. There was an old gas station. One of those ancient types with a single pump, flickering overhead light, and a rusted sign that just said, gas. Right beside it was a diner, small, square, with no windows. Just a red neon open sign humming quietly in the night. I pulled up to the pump and slid my card in. The screen blinked a few times, then read, approved. But when I lifted the nozzle, no gas came out. The handle was ice cold. That's when I saw the guy inside the diner, staring through the glass. Part 2, the warning. I walked inside, expecting a typical dusty desert diner. But it was colder than it should have been. There were booths, but no customers. No food smells. No music. Just a buzzing overhead light and the hum of a fridge near the back. The man behind the counter didn't blink. Not once. He was tall, pale, dressed like he hadn't changed clothes since the 80s. His eyes didn't quite focus on me. Just through me. Before I could ask anything, he said, "Keep driving. It's following you now." My heart did a weird flip. What? What's following me? He didn't answer. Just stood there, unmoving. I looked around, tried to laugh it off. Some weird desert prank, maybe. But there was no back door. No kitchen. Just the cashier, the counter, and the endless hum of silence pressing in from all sides. I backed out slowly, muttering a "thanks, I didn't mean," and returned to my car. The pump screen was blank. The card was gone. That's when I noticed something in the side mirror. A figure. Way back down the road. Just standing in the middle of the lane. Not moving. Too far to see clearly, but it looked wrong. And it was getting closer. Part 3, no record. I floored it. No hesitation, no checking mirrors, no second guesses. I just hit the gas and peeled out of that strange stop, racing back toward I-80. The tires squealed, dust clouding behind me. I glanced once in the rearview mirror, and the figure was gone. But I swear I felt something clinging to the back of the car. Like static. Like breath. When I merged back onto the highway, I expected to see lights, signs, maybe even a map pin. But there was nothing. Just black desert and the sound of my own panicked breathing. I drove another hour without stopping, until I reached a brightly lit truck stop with a working gas station. Real people. Real food. Real noise. I asked the cashier if there was another exit back the way I'd come, some old off-ramp or forgotten service road. She looked confused. "There's nothing between here and Wendover. Just flat road. You must have dreamed it." I checked my GPS history. Nothing logged. No location change, no stop recorded. Just a straight line on I-80 like I'd never left it. But I know what I saw. And sometimes, on really long drives, I still glance at the exits, wondering if I'll see that one again. Wondering if whatever followed me ever stopped. The day I woke up in a house I didn't buy. Part 1, the morning I didn't recognize. I woke up one morning feeling wrong. The sun was streaming through the window, the same as always. But something was off. The curtains were unfamiliar, too bright, not the ones I remember picking out. The couch looked like mine but wasn't. My toothbrush sat on the sink, just like it should, but my hand brushed against a scar I didn't remember getting. I got out of bed, my heart pounding. I tried to remember what happened yesterday. Nothing. My mind was a blank. I stepped outside to get some fresh air and saw my neighbors waving. They smiled warmly but called me by a name I didn't recognize, Marissa. Panic started creeping in. I ran back inside and grabbed the mail from the counter. The envelope was thick, official looking. The name on it was the same wrong name my neighbors used. Returned subject, do not transfer again, it read in bold letters. I didn't know what to think. I felt trapped in someone else's life. Or maybe I wasn't supposed to be here at all. Part 2, searching for answers. Determined to figure out what was happening, I started digging. I looked through the house for any clues, old photos, documents, anything that could explain why this house felt so familiar yet completely foreign. In the bedroom closet, I found a dusty photo album. The pictures were of me, or someone who looked just like me, living this life for years. There were photos with people I didn't know, celebrations, vacations, birthdays. All of it was tied to the wrong name. I tried calling my real family, but my phone showed no contacts. My ID was missing, and every time I tried to leave the house, strange things stopped me. My car keys disappeared, phone batteries died instantly, and the neighborhood felt like a maze. One night, I heard whispers outside the window. Someone was watching me, waiting. The feeling of being a returned subject wasn't just on paper. It was real. I was caught between two lives, but why? And how? Part 3, Breaking Free. The next day, I decided I couldn't live like this anymore. I had to break free from this nightmare. I packed a small bag and slipped out before anyone could see me. I walked for miles until I found a diner with a working phone. I called the police, explaining my situation. At first, they didn't believe me. Who wouldn't be skeptical? But I showed them the mail, the photos, and the strange scars on my arm. Turns out, I was part of a witness protection program I'd forgotten about due to trauma or memory suppression. Somehow, my identity had been mixed up or reset without my knowledge, and I'd been placed in the wrong location under a new name. It was a lot to process. But finally, the truth set me free. I'm now working to reclaim my real life, piece by piece, surrounded by people who know me for who I really am. The house I woke up in? It was never mine to begin with. But now, I am.